Everything is connection with kids, and I would say adults as well. It's important to focus on fostering that unconditional love and approval of their intrinsic worth, because this becomes a template for how they relate to themselves when they grow up. Try talking their emotional brain through whatever difficulty it is that they're experiencing. So give words to their experience. Empathize and validate with what they're wanting based on their perspective. You might say, it would feel really good to eat all those chocolate chip cookies. You could also, it doesn't mean you agree with them, but you can say it based on what their perspective is. This helps them feel understood. And you can say it even from their perspective in terms of, yeah, chocolate chip chocolate chip cookies taste really good. It makes sense you'd want to eat all of them. We need to eat some healthy things first, and so on. So you can still put in some of the instruction and so on, but it would be important to validate and empathize. Try also redirecting to options or coping strategies. You know, choose something. You might help redirect their attention to something new, something funny, something they notice that they're seeing or hearing or smelling or feeling. Now, regardless of all of these, it's still normal for kids to have meltdowns. It actually is healthy for them to have some meltdowns. Still love them so that they will love themselves. Um, this is because oppositionality is okay and can be healthy in moderation, because this also helps to develop their sense of self and identity. So give them power, as much power as possible within an acceptable framework. This is also called feeding the meter. Kids tend to have an inferiority complex, so this feeding the meter can be super helpful. If they do happen to have a meltdown, it's not a good idea to try to teach them anything in that specific moment. When it passes, when they're calmer, then explore it with them. One thing that you can do to help foster empathy for your children would be, imagine switching roles and being in your child's place with their undeveloped undeveloped intellect, no control over their impulses, small body, and little external control and power. This helps to better understand why they are reacting this way. This sort of embodied exploration is super helpful for eliciting empathy. A summary of some of the things you can do to help um, redirect them would be choosing something new, might be a sticker, choosing something interesting to show them, maybe an animal, or choosing something funny even to do or show, such as pretending to slip on a banana peel. Giving a bit of space and time for them to do what you're asking, if you're asking them to do something, can be helpful, because then they don't feel coerced. If they feel coerced, what happens is the counter will instinct arises. And this counter will instinct occurs in both children and adults as well, when we feel like our autonomy and self agency is being infringed upon. So, the subtle art of being a parent is helping to guide your children in a way that feels collaborative to them, where they still feel self agency, and while you can still do it in a way that keeps them safe and healthy. Tailor your methods to the specific ability or capacity and threshold of your child, so that you can maintain rapport with them, and so that it works for them and you. Remember that parenting is not easy, and no one ever said it would be easy. In fact, it's going to be, and it is very, very difficult. It's supposed to be difficult. We're taking care of another human, um, putting our needs aside, trying to meet our needs as much as possible, but the children's needs come first, and that's a reality. That's a fact. Tantrums, if they do have them, can result from things like being hungry, lonely, tired, having excess energy, so understimulated, or being overstimulated. So if your child is having a tantrum, it can be helpful to think about and reflect on, are they feeling hungry, lonely, tired, having too much energy, or you know, not having enough stimulation? This can help to address maybe a core underlying need that might be driving the tantrum. So you can give words to the experience that they're having. Obviously, if they're seeing red, if they're having a tantrum, they're sometimes, you need to let that storm pass. But when you're able to, when they're receptive to it, helping to give them the words for what they're feeling and needing and validate it. You can even redirect to options to help them. So help them feel felt. You might say something like, I hear you. I hear you don't want to, or you want this. Or it sure does hurt, or it sure does feel good. Or it's okay, it will pass soon. Or let's talk about it our day for 1 minute, or do you just want a hug? If they're not ready, you can say, okay, I'll wait for a minute in case you are ready to hug, or whatever it is. So try to determine why they behaved the way they did, what lesson needs to be taught, how best to teach that lesson, and when is the right time to teach it, not during a tantrum. Remember that there's something called an internal model. This is also called implicit memory. Implicit memory is like non-conscious memory that or at least it can form outside of conscious awareness. Think of it like emotional memory, body memory, sensory memory, and so on. So you need to love them even when they are at their worst, so that they love themselves when they are experiencing a lot of adversity. So this helps to provide them with a sense and feeling of self-worth. And treat them how you want them to automatically feel toward themselves, because the way that you behave toward them is what they will internalize and feel about themselves when others in the future behave maybe in an angry or condescending manner. Try to foster healthy tendencies for your child's exploration. Don't be too directive. Try to foster their exploration. And lastly, they need to know that you love them no matter what. So really driving that point home of that unconditional worth. I hope these tips have been helpful in your journey as a parent. Feel free to go on our website for more tips and strategies. Until the next time, all the best in the future, and good luck and good work in your efforts in parenting. Thanks.